and it's November 12th at 6:30. For those of you that are on Zoom, Tony DeLude is on Zoom. I'm waiting for Kevin Jourdain, so I'm probably not going to take you up at this point, Tony, because I know he has some questions for you. So I would take up item number 1, and that's the minutes of the meeting for October 22nd. Anybody have any questions or anything on that?
Motion to approve the minutes of October 22nd.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then we're going to skip 2 and 3 for now, and then we're going to go to item number 4. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
This was ordered that there be is hereby appropriated by transfer in the fiscal year 2025, $32,000 as followed. From audit professional account, Holyoke Police Department, to, procurement assistant, chief procurement officer, $12,000, treasurer, administrative assistant, $5,000, for a total of $32,000 to the IT software license. And hey, Kevin, we're moving all around, so you're okay.
Oh, okay.
Tanya, do you have anything you'd like to add? I did get a letter from Rory Casey. Dear Chair Devine, please accept this communication in regards to item 4 on tonight's finance agenda. Due to some dental work performed this afternoon, I am unable to attend the meeting in person. This is a straightforward transfer, which is coming from unexpended funds in the administrative assistant position. This position is currently filled. However, due to the temporary unpaid leave over the summer, there will be a surplus at the end of FY25. The mayor and the auditor asked for these funds to ensure that there is enough funding for the city's IT budget in fiscal 2025. Thank you. I thank you and your fellow committee members for taking this under consideration. Best, Rory. So Tanya is here. I don't know if she has anything she'd like to add.
Yeah,
You can put that.
so this transfer is actually to support the mayor's original budget, which was cut by $32,000 in the 2025 appropriations. There is a list of all the software, the licensing and software that I forwarded. So it's just to make sure that we can cover all of our current programs that we have within the city. Obviously, we want our departments to have the resources necessary to handle their responsibilities. The line items that that the funding is coming from, one of them is my open position, which we are interviewing for, but we're kind of having a hard time right now finding interested applicants. Same with procurement. I know he's been constantly interviewing, looking for applicants. Rory already explained in the treasurer's office for the administrative assistant why he has a surplus. And I also had submitted some calculations of what the surpluses were actually in those lines, if you want any information on that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Tanya? Go ahead, Councilor Jourdain.
Thank you. Hi, Tanya. When we had made the cuts during the budget process, obviously we were also looking to make cuts relative to the overall budget because we're very concerned about the levy being too high. But we had done a comparison of the run rate, prior year expenditure, current year expenditures, transfers out of this account that had occurred. So having reviewed all of that, it was determined at the time that we could afford the $32,000 cut that was made. Can you explain to us then, like, why the $32,000 is needed? Is
There's a running list of programs. I actually, if you want it, I can give it to you. I sent it in an email as well, but it was just recently.
Is this the,
Yeah, there's a
That's in each of our
list.
package.
Oh, this was sent at 2:25 this
That's what
afternoon.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that everybody had this, and that's why I wanted to actually stop in tonight myself, is to make sure that you did have this, because these are things that we need. They're necessary. If you look in the account right now, because obviously I did as well, it doesn't look like we're spending any money, but one of the issues is that there's no purchase orders for a lot of these programs right now. So at the beginning of the year, a good process would be to enter in all of these purchase orders so that you can show that this money is going to be expended throughout the year. Right now, we don't see that. So if you look, it has an available balance. But the truth is we're just paying bills as they're coming in instead of like encumbering all of them. And we don't want to be short because you don't want to be short at the end of the year and not be able to pay these bills, which we know do exist. IT is something, it's a very expensive thing as well. You buy a new computer program, then you have to pay a license for it every year, and you just want to make sure that you can pay for these. So that's why I wanted to come and make sure, because I didn't want to fall short of the $32,000. Plus, you also have employees that they need computers, they need different programs to do their jobs, they do need these things, and I think we put $10,000 for equipment, so that's not a lot of money in an annual year for the city of Holyoke for equipment alone. If we have to take money, $10,000, that's all we have extra in the equipment line, and we have to take part of that and pay for these programs, then we can buy nothing.
Well,
I understand what you're saying.
well, right, because in the
sure.
end, I also look at the budget has to be as precise as we can be. And what we're looking at is year after year, it's not spending this amount of money. So that's the issue. Having said that, I could be supportive because we did cut it out of the budget, but these items were funded. So this is technically budget neutral because these are already other budgeted items, right? That did pass in the budget? These, because you're taking it from
330
audit.
was passed, and there's a $362,000 worth of expenses. And I can also say,
No. I think you're misunderstanding my question. If you look at the transfer,
the three,
it's proposing to take 15 from audit,
Yes.
from the HPD,
Yep.
12 from procurement, and 5 from treasurer. So you're just moving it from other departments into this line.
Accurate.
It isn't increasing the levy by us approving this because it's budget neutral.
that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct.
So from our perspective as the council, we did reduce the overall appropriation by 32.
Understood.
You're just kind of shifting the money around based on you want it to be here versus in these other areas. So
Accurate.
I can support it on that regard because it's still budget neutral.
I still would like to have filled that position instead, but yes, you're right.
I'm taking my paperwork back.
Of course, yeah, thank you.
Okay, do I have any other questions or anything from anybody? If not, I make a
Well-
motion to, or accept a motion to.
Yeah,
pass
motion to approve the
transfer.
transfer.
Yep,
Okay.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I also want to mention that Counselor Givner is absent today. She is traveling, so she was unable to be here.
Okay.
And quickly, I'll take up item number 5, which we're actually deleting from the agenda because that was taken up at our city council meeting.
All right.
Okay, so that's been deleted. All right.
Yuck and
Thank you
aye.
very much. Okay, so I'm trying to,
What item are we on now?
well,
Yes.
it would be
Yeah, motion to take up item 2 and 3 as a package.
So
so
moved.
moved. Okay, and let me just, where'd my paper go?
You only did just the minutes before I
Yeah,
got here, right?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 2 is from the Holyoke Retirement Board, PERAC, Investment Report 2023. It was tabled on October 22nd, 24. And then item number 3 was done on 9/4/24 from the Holyoke Retirement Board, Annual Statement of the Financial Condition of the Holyoke Retirement Board. And those have been taken up off the table. And the head of the Retirement Board, Tony DeLude, is on Zoom. So, Tony, you gave us some information.
Yeah. If you look on page 8, changes from prior valuation, we had just received our actuarial valuation summary from Siegel, and it's good. We're 81.49% funded. That's up 5 points from the previous year. Now, this year's PARAC investment report I gave you, we are towards the bottom of the state, but as far as our actuarial position goes, it's in good shape. We're at 7% each year. We were at like 8.6%. The year before, we finished fourth out of the state. Even though everyone lost money in the state, we were still fourth in the state. We also, if you look on the sheet for that funding schedule, we shaved another year off, so we should be fully funded by 2032, which is also a good, also we're trending in the right direction. So, I mean, I just wanted to give you this backup after the fact of the PARAC investment report. We're right on line with what we're supposed to be doing, and 2032, that should be finished with all of our funding schedules. So that's good news.
Okay.
If there's any questions, I can take some questions.
Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, Tony, first of all, thank you so much for sending these reports over to the city council. You know, you do a phenomenal job for the city and the retirement board as well, and you're obviously a huge component of our financial health, and I think it's really important that the finance committee review once a year these important documents, and it's important for you to come and discuss with us. Just a couple of questions for you, Tony. One is, how is Holyoke, our 81.5%, which by the way I think is really good, because I remember not too far long ago we were like 65%. So that is a big improvement. Question for you: how do we stack up compared to like the state retirement board themselves? And then
I think, I think we're in the 75 percentile for state retirement boards. There's probably about 75% of the boards that are right where we are as funded ratio. And,
no, what I was actually asking, Anthony, that was going to be my second question. How are we doing compared to comparable communities? But the state, as I've always understood it, they have lagged themselves for their own being fully funded. Is Holyoke ahead of where PARAC themselves are for state employees?
Well, I mean, for PARAC, I'm not positive how funded they are. I would say they're probably, I don't know if it was in the report. I don't think they put PARAC in the report, but I would probably say they are fully funded, the state retirement system, because they started that probably, I'm not at privy right now to say, but they're probably fully funded, but, because they were starting from, a full funded investment when they received all these, and as people add on, then they take on more money and more, liability. So.
I'll take a look, because there was a time when the state of Massachusetts was not as strong as you would expect them to be,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we try to outperform PARAC, and PRIM, it's called PRIM, the, Pension Retirement Board through the state, where a lot of communities and towns are involved with. And over the past few years, we've done well stacking up against the state. So we were 4 points ahead 2 years ago. Last year, I think we're down 2 points from them. So, I mean, we're towards the bottom from last year, but we're still 2.5 percentage points, above what we want,
Yeah.
So, we're trending in the right direction.
Well, at least we're not Springfield. That's 35%.
Yeah, there are some cities and towns that are up against it, and what they did though, they had some issues with borrowing from their fund, and it was never paid back. So when they had a lot of issues in the 80s, I think. in Springfield. So they borrowed some money from them, the city and town, just to bail them out, and that money has not come back yet. You know, I think it's going through bonding purposes. So, we'll see.
How is your budget doing in terms of operating the retirement board itself? Is it pretty consistent with a small
Yeah.
rate of growth per year, generally speaking?
They wanted, we added 3.25% for this year.
Okay, all right.
So it's
And-
probably, the operating budget's about 450,000.
Okay.
And, you know, minus the management fees. Management fees are a lot for investment vehicles for us. Those go about 1.2 million a year for management fees.
Is the board planning to do a cost of living adjustment this coming year?
Well, for the July 1st, nothing right now, but for July 1st, we increased to 14 to 15. If the state allows us, we'll revisit it for next year.
Okay,
What was that again, Tony, if you don't mind?
It went from 14 to 15,000, the base. It wasn't
Okay.
a lot of money. Remember we had talked, it increased our value per the year, like $55,000.
Okay,
But when you do that, it stretches out and enforces your unfunded liability. It took about a $2.5 million hit over the course of the years, because it's in perpetuity, really, you know.
so Tony, just so I understand how that works is when you guys go up from 14 to 15, that means that if the first $15,000 of a retiree's annual pension, they're eligible to get the, what I think is a
Yeah.
3% COLA?
Yeah, it was at 14, it was $35 per
Okay.
month. And
Okay.
then when it went to the 15, it actually just went up to $37.50 per month. So
Okay.
it's not a big increase, but everybody, you know, like we said, every little bit helps for,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate the reports.
yeah, and I'll keep on sending them as I get them. I send
Yeah.
them all, so,
that would be appreciated, Tony, thank you.
all right.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? So do I hear a motion to
That these have been
been
complied with?
complied with?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Tony, thank you again very much.
Yeah, thank you. No
Have a good
problem.
night.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now I have a motion to take up item number 6.
So moved?
Okay, ordered that there be and is hereby appropriated by transfer in the fiscal year 2025, $300,000 as followed. From dispatch, $150,000, and patrolman, $150,000, for a total of $300,000, to overtime account, $300,000. And I see that the Chief Cruz is here, and Sergeant Zerhide. I don't know if this pertains to you, but you might be here for a grant, but Captain Cruz, if you want to give us a little information. You're on Zoom, you're on mute.
Better? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh. Yeah, so it's just a transfer of overtime funds. I know the last time I talked to you guys, Councilor Jordan asked me where we were in terms of savings, and we were $30,000 in savings at that time. I talked to the sergeant today. We're still trending in that direction, saving money. A couple of things that I've changed over, the small time I've been, the interim chief has saved me a little bit of money. So essentially, I just need the money to pay the bills, if you know what I mean.
okay. Counselor Jordan, you have a question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
sure, go ahead.
Also, I wanted to notify that Counselor Izzy Rivera is online. Okay.
Okay, yep. Hey, Chief, good to see you. One, I see that you're just taking this from other lines in your budget. One, why do you have 300,000 surplus in these other lines that you have available to transfer to overtime. That's a good problem to have, but I just wanted to check, is that because we got the dispatcher money in the grant was approved for dispatchers? I believe we had received 300 and maybe 29,000 or something in that vicinity. I just was a little curious why you had so much extra in these lines.
Joe, are you there, Joe?
Yes, Chief. Good evening. So I can answer this question for, on behalf of the chief. The 150, in the coming from the dispatcher's line item, we have had 2 to 3 vacancies, in dispatcher that we've been hiring for. Unfortunately, 2 of the 3 that we hired within the past 2 months, they did resign. So we have had 3 vacancies there, accumulating. We are actively trying to hire them as we speak. But also there was the grant funding that came in for the 306, which will defer the cost as well, opening that money, allowing us to kind of free up this portion and put it towards the overtime line item. And the 150 coming from the patrolman line item is similar. We did just graduate 6 people from the academy. We still do have a couple of vacancies. We're hoping to swear 4 more officers in the beginning of December, or late November, or early December. We're hoping to fill those 4, but those spots were vacant for the time being, which accumulated. And we also have a couple of our patrolmen on grants that cover their salaries, and we're hoping to move that money over to the line, to the overtime line item, because it is getting short right now. And the chief did mention earlier, as of my last time I looked at it, a couple of days ago, we were about 30,000 less in overtime from last year at the same point to this year, year to date.
Okay. One other question is, in your estimation, if we grant this 300,000, about how long do you think that will last? I think we might have done 1 transfer already earlier this year. How far out do you think this is good for the rest of the fiscal year, or do you think this is like 3 or 4 months? What's your opinion at this point?
So this, we have made the 1 transfer for 250. This is another 300, which is trending the same as last year. Actually, we came back last year, last month. So we did get a month further on our 2nd transfer this year. That money, it would be great if it made it to the end of the fiscal year. I don't think that is a possibility, though. But I would say it would get us well in after the new year, maybe 1 more slight transfer before the end of the fiscal year to get us through the end.
How much, I forget, Sergeant, how much did we have? I don't have my budget in front of me. What was the original appropriation?
The original was 300, and then there was a transfer of 250, and then this one at 300.
Okay, so that would give you 850, right? And I know we've been averaging around
Yes.
$1 million. Okay. So you still think you'll be on track to keep it at 1 million or less?
I would hope so, unless, and I don't have a crystal ball, and there are certain things that can balloon the budget, like God forbid if there's a murder or something big along those lines. But as of now, that's the way it is trending. We are slightly less in overtime than we were last year, and we're hoping to keep it right around that $1 million mark.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Sullivan, and then I see Counselor Rivera's hand raised. So Counselor Sullivan first.
Yeah. Sergeant, any estimate as to how much more of a surplus throughout the year there's going to be in this patrolman's account?
I don't think there's going to be too much more. I can get you a hard number on that. I don't have it with me at this moment, but we are bringing 4 more officers online, hopefully swearing them in late November, early December, which will then kind of take away that surplus that we had for the first 6 months.
Okay, this is the first time we've transferred out of the patrolman's account in this fiscal year?
I don't believe, I believe the first transfer, I don't have it with me, but I believe the first transfer had a portion coming from the patrolman line item as well.
Okay, so I would just take a moment to, I'd like this in the minutes to remind the rest of our council members that we had proposed back when we did the budget of a $70,000 cut in the patrolman's line item, because every year, year after year, we've never, ever, ever achieved the goal of the full staffing. So that cut was for 70,000. It didn't clear the council, of course, but we couldn't make a $70,000 cut then, but now we've got 150,000 plus surplus to transfer. So that's no reflection on the department. I just want to make this point for the rest of the councilors as we go into our next budget season.
Okay. Counselor Rivera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to thank the Chief and Sergeant Zurheide for kind of providing the detailed answers to the questions that are being answered. I think one of the things that stands out for me here is Kevin asked a couple of good questions, Councilor Jordan. Well, kind of does a lot, even though we're not always at the same page, but I'd have to say around managing and trying to control, or as much as you can, predict overtime. And I like how Sergeant Zurheide pointed out the fact that you're kind of, how do you say, taking, and it's not extra funding, it's funding that is grant funds to trying to like offset the costs that are for patrol. And I think for me, one of the things that is important, if we can moving forward somehow, some ways, kind of put a note every time you do that for every amount that is potentially grant funding that is being transferred into that overtime account or patrolman's account, whichever one, just so that we know for a fact like where that extra funding is coming from in a sense. Because although it's not extra funding, but it is, because we allocate the funding for that position in the budget, but at the end of the year, the expectation usually is that you're supposed to get some of that back because the grant's supposed to fund it. But if you're not getting it back and it's going towards overtime, then that totally makes sense. But I think that it would make sense for us to note that, so that way in the future we can know where this is coming from and how it's covering certain things. But again, I appreciate what you guys are doing right now and putting it forth, considering the circumstances at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Rivera. Anybody else have any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, and we'll go on to item number 7. Have a motion to take up item number 7?
So moved.
Ordered that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the FY 2025 State 911 Department Emergency Medical Dispatch Grant Program of $24,500, no match. Captain or Sergeant Zurheide, is that for you or the chief?
Yes, this is one of the ones that I did apply for, and it was granted for the $24,500. We do use this grant. We pay Cataldo Ambulance, who we have the city contract with for the ambulance services. We use this portion to pay Cataldo the fee that they charge for the emergency medical dispatching. So what this is that when somebody calls 911 out in the public, someone calls 911, it comes into our dispatchers, and when our dispatchers need to provide first aid instructions over the phone, they transfer them to Cataldo, who have certified dispatchers to do that. There is special requirements that those dispatchers have to meet, so we use Cataldo for those purposes, and this grant allows us to pay that fee without having to come out of our own budget.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second, all those in favor? Aye, so moved. Okay. Then we have item number 8 is, can I take that off the table for
So moved.
discussion? ordered that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of FY 2025 State 911 Department Training Program, $12,555.20, no match, and authorizes the establishment of fund. Move we take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Questions?
Oh, how about can he describe it first?
That would be good.
Yeah, let's start there, yeah. What's going on?
Sergeant, could you describe that, please?
Yes, absolutely. This one is from the same grant department as the one we just spoke about, but this one is for our 12 dispatchers that work at the Holyrood Police Department. Every year, the dispatchers do have to attend a 16-hour course. It's usually 4 courses. Each one is a 4-hour block, and that keeps them up to date and certified to work in our dispatch center. Those courses aren't free. They are $399 for the 4 courses per person. And then there's also, they have to attend those classes outside of their normal working hours, so we do have to pay them overtime to attend it. And this grant will cover the fee of the $399 to attend the courses and their overtime, and that will all come out of this grant.
Questions?
Who gives us the grant?
That one is from the
State 911
State 911 Department, yes.
Training Grant
The
Program.
State 911 Department.
Is that under the Public Safety Department of the state?
It's under the Office of Grants and Research.
Grants and research, okay. Okay. All right. Motion to approve?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, and we have one more, and I don't want to forget to thank you, Sergeant, for going after these grants and getting them approved. Well, we approved them, but thank you. So, motion to take up item number 9.
So moved?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of FY 2025 Municipal Road Safety Program Grant, $39,600, no match, authorizes the establishment of a fund. Sergeant, can you tell us about this one?
Yes, so we've had this one in the past. We do usually get it yearly. It is one of the better ones that it really showed the public, that the public really get to see, because it is the traffic one. And I do know that traffic is an issue within the city. It does get brought up to us. So this one allows the hiring of officers on overtime to conduct traffic enforcement, and their sole purpose is only traffic enforcement. They are not allowed to break off and answer calls or anything else unless there's an officer requesting help because their life is in danger. Barring that, they are focused on traffic, and it's a 4-hour detail blocks. So for those 4 hours, they're out making traffic stops. And we tend to use this one. There are certain months that we can use it in, and we tend to focus on the places that we're getting a lot of complaints about, and getting those extra patrol officers out there making those stops during peak hours as well.
Thank you. Is there any particular time that these officers are out there?
So we usually put it out most of them will work anywhere from 8 a.m. to about 10 p.m. in 4-hour blocks during the months that they're allowed to.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Counselor Jordan?
Yeah. Sergeant, since we get this grant multiple years, do you report back to the state or whoever's giving you the grant the statistics around the type of productivity and work that we're doing while we're doing this traffic enforcement? Said another way, are we reporting back, how many tickets we've issued, how many warnings we've issued, those kind of statistics?
I apologize, Counselor, you cut out for a second, but I did hear most of your questions, so if I missed any of it, please just let me know. But yes, we do. With this grant, it's a requirement that I have to file monthly reports for the state. And all those stats that you're speaking about are on there. How many, the officer's name, the hours that they worked, the day that they worked, and then all the stats of how many car stops were there, how many tickets were issued, what was the offense for the ticket. That is tracked monthly, and then there is a year-end report that I do finish as well.
Okay. Do you have that? Do you happen to have the year-end report handy?
I don't. I just left the War Memorial at their meeting, so I apologize. I'm in my car. I just walked out of theirs to go into this one.
Okay.
But I can send that over if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like all the detail. If you could send us the 12 months of the monthly reports plus the year-end report. One of the things I wanted to point out to you, Sergeant, is there has been some concern among certain of my colleagues, including myself, that there seems to be a high propensity of warnings issued for tickets instead of actual tickets for some of these offenses like speeding and otherwise. So I wanted to make sure that it's understood from the leadership of the police department that we're doing very strong traffic enforcement and now we're handing out actual tickets and less on warnings. Holyoke has a serious traffic control problem, and I want to make sure people are getting tickets that deserve them. Do you agree?
So I can I wish nobody sped. It would make everything a lot easier. But I do agree that there does need to be an enforcement and kind of throttle back the traffic violations in the city. I do fill out those monthly reports. If this grant is approved and approved by the full council, the first month that it working will be December. And then it goes away for a couple months, and then they come back on kind of like in the springtime, the months we're allowed to do traffic enforcement with this grant. So I will absolutely do monthly reports, and I'll make sure I send them over to Jeffrey for the council.
Yeah, but just so we're clear on the information request, we're looking for the last prior year of reports as well.
Yes, I'll send that over to, you'll have it by Thursday. I'll
Okay.
send it over to Jeffrey within the next day or two.
Do you, as a leadership, obviously you're a sergeant, but I don't know if the chief wants to weigh in on this. Do you review the amount of statistics regarding tickets that are issued by the department and see if that's in line with other communities as well? Because it would appear that we do give quite a number of quote unquote warnings. And I'm just wondering, are we sending the right message?
So I haven't looked into that comparison myself. I will let the chief answer this question, but I myself have not looked into it. That is a good question, but I haven't thought of that.
If I might, I think once we get those monthly reports, we'll be able to tell specifically how much warning was given out, what months they were given out, and, you know, do those reports tell you where in the city the tickets or warnings were given out?
They do not. Our call logs would show that because the officer has to call out on the radio and it's documented. So
Okay.
it would show up in our call logs, but not the reports that I send to the state.
I would just point out before I turn it over to the chief that we have been receiving statistical reports for quite some time, in addition to the statistics that are being tracked under this grant. The council has received past reporting on numbers of tickets, warnings, and what have you, in all these various categories, from noise to all the way down. So some of us are paying close attention to this. And I'm just concerned, are we being tough enough? So Chief, I'd like your opinion. Do you discuss these statistical reports in the leadership? And do you think there's room there to issue more tickets and give less warnings?
I agree on there's room to give less warnings. However, officers have the discretion. I know in the past what's the complaints we've received when we started hitting it hard, so to speak, was that the public was complaining that they're a poor community. They can't afford to pay its ticket. They can't afford to get their car out of the impound lot. For they call it a violation that would because a lot of times when we make these stops, unfortunately it turns into something more. Unregistered car, no license. So in the past, what's happened is we've been told, calm it down a little bit. It's a poor community. Let's do this as more as educational. So it's almost like damn if we do, damn if we don't. It's like, I hate to say it that way, but that's exactly how I've seen it over the years. And again, we can't force officers by case law to issue citations. There's a case law. I know recently I sent an email requesting that, give me a couple tickets a day, a shift. And sort of, I hate to say it, but I got a little backlash about that, and based on this case law from, I think that's out of Newton. And so, that's the battle I have to fight here. It's like, you can't force them to write tickets, and then when we do write tickets and we hit them hard, we get the backlash from the community complaining about that we're picking on them, the poor community. They can't afford to get their cars out. They can't afford to get their licenses. So, as you can see, it's not as easy as it sounds.
I'm not sure, Chief, who's giving you backlash, but invite them to come to the city council, because I would love to invite them in and hear the argument about how I can drive around with no license, or I can drive around with no insurance, or I get to speed as much as I want, and then when I get caught, I say, well, I'm poor and I can't afford a ticket. The easiest way to solve that problem is don't speed and you won't get any tickets. So we've got a huge problem. I can tell you, maybe I'm not talking to enough of a cross section, I don't know, but I think I talked to quite a few citizens, especially during the campaign last year, and I can tell you that they just see traffic issues, sound and noise issues as a major problem. They don't think we're tough enough. They think that, we need to really crack down and send a message out there. And then maybe people say, I can't come cry on the chief's shoulder. Too damn bad is my attitude towards that. And, you know what? If they think that, we're just going to issue warnings and all this. Now, what you're discussing about quotas, yeah, those are totally illegal. You can't go out and tell your officers everybody's got to issue, 10 tickets a week. That's totally illegal. You can't do that. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when in the ordinary course of doing your police work, you come across X person who's violating the law. Well, guess what? That person, we need to be less warnings. And it seemed like we had quite a few. And I would encourage you to seriously consider more tickets. And you know what? If they're concerned about paying the bill, let them go cry on the clerk magistrate's shoulder, not on your shoulder. Okay? And that's where they've got their day in court, that they're entitled to appeal the ticket. And maybe the clerk says, okay, you haven't had one in 5 years, 10 years, we'll give you a break, or whatever their tale of woe is. But the bottom line is we've got to send a message. We mean business, because I'll tell you, the stuff, it's unbelievable what's going on. In fact, it's funny, I might as well bring it up because I'm sitting here with the wonderful Counselor Ocasio, and her and I were down at Main and Vernon the other night looking at the traffic light that was knocked over by a drunk driver, by the way, a drunk driver. And now the two of us have to sit here and beg to get the traffic light put up. Meanwhile, while the two of us are sitting here talking about this traffic light that got hit by a drunk driver, some crazy person comes blaring down Main Street, goes over the curb, and turns onto Vernon Street. I mean, you couldn't make this up. Okay, it's nuts. And the only line of defense we have is our beautiful police department. Okay, you're all the only shot we got. So you're not being too hard. Trust me on that one. So feel free to give out tickets, and at least that's my vote. Thank you.
Anybody else? Counselor Rivera. Anybody else have anything before I call on Counselor Rivera?
Yeah.
Yes, Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, just to back up what Counselor Jordan's been saying, myself, I see easily a half a dozen or more red lights eaten in the city all day. So, noise violations, stuff like that. But the other day, I actually saw a school bus eat a red light. There was no children on it.
It doesn't
But
matter.
it's sad what's going on, and I've requested some info both from our city legal department and now from our state senator's office as to the legality of putting in some of these cameras that are attached to the red lights that would solve one of those problems anyways, as far as quotas and everything else. Just by what I see around town, we'd net about $1,000 a day or $365,000 a year, and nobody be able to question it. Thank you.
And I just want to mention, before I call on Counselor Rivera, that it's hard. I know you can't have a police officer everywhere, every hour in the city, but what we see is amazing. The rolling stop signs, the speeding. One thing I've always felt is the speeding is so dangerous, especially in certain areas. If you get a speeding ticket, that goes on your insurance, correct? And so that's what I'm looking at is speeding tickets, and certainly cars that are unregistered. These are dangerous situations, and I'm not trying to criticize you. I appreciate you getting this grant. It's going to be a big help, and you can't be everywhere, but you need to know what we know and what we hear about, what we see, all right? Councilor Rivera.
Thank you. For me, it's the same as echoing the sentiment of some of the colleagues or all of the colleagues that have been speaking up. I myself have also witnessed a variety of different traffic occasions or violations or whatnot, and I'm with it. Like I'm not about coming after everybody or whatnot, but I do agree with the tone within the community being one of like traffic is kind of a little out of control. And a lot of residents are actually, that's the main concern for them. Walking the streets and walking their dogs and driving bikes. If we're putting more bike lanes, we should kind of be paying a little more attention to that. So like with the quota piece and the piece of the class or whatever the court case, the case law. Yeah, like Councilor Jordan said, we can't literally just tell them we need 100 tickets today, right? But if you're pulling someone over and they're speeding, and listen, it could be me. Like it doesn't matter. Give me the ticket. The reality is that right now here, there are people want to see that type of enforcement within the community. And I think that it speaks to two different things, right? There's the safety mechanism on the streets and traffic wise, but there's also the extra presence within the community when you know that you're gonna get pulled over for eating a stoplight. That extra, if you do that in South Hadley, you're gonna get pulled over. You go to Chicopee, you're gonna get pulled over. Not saying that we want that same clout, but at the end of the day, there is, like Councilor Jordan said, an expectation, right? Like we know that there will be a consequence if you do these things. But a lot of slapping the wrist, I'm cool with a slap in the wrist, but like not every time. Like we gotta figure this out somehow, some way. And I know that without a traffic squad that can actually sit there and analyze the reports, like Councilor Jordan had referenced before, without having an actual crime analyst that can look at these things and spend time and focus on this, it's a little more difficult for you guys because you guys are kind of spending time on this and everything else you're doing. But I think that my colleagues are kind of on point with some of the things they're saying here, and I have to say that I agree. And thank you guys too as well.
Thank you. We're going to ask for a motion to approve this grant.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Chief and Sergeant, that's the only two things that are on the agenda. We do have a couple of things that are laid on the table, which I just want to quickly bring up so we can retable them.
Okay.
One is-
Motion to remove item 10 and 11 off the table for
Thank you.
discussion.
One is for an update on the status of off-duty account, police account, off-duty blue. What was the name of the one that we're using now or used before?
Roll call.
Roll call, thank you. So we're not going to really discuss it because the last time we did, we said they'd come back with some information. So I would just like to take a motion to table this until further notice. Counselor Murphy Ramboletti can let us know when she wants to bring it up.
Okay. Do you want to do table 11 as well?
I want to talk about 11.
Okay. Motion to table 10.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And then, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Sergeant, for coming tonight. You're all set.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. You too. Okay, so the reason I want to take up item 11 by itself is ordered that there be and hereby appropriated by transfer fiscal 2025, $108,695.56. And I'd like to take it off the table for discussion.
So moved.
Okay. One of the reasons I want to take it up, and Mike Bissonette is here as well, what I'd like to do, because that would definitely clean out the jacket, the finance jacket, is just have a motion to send it to the full city council without any recommendation whatsoever, and let that be discussed there, whether it's in regular session, executive session, but we can get it out of the committee. And if Counselor, Attorney Bissonette, if you have anything you'd like to offer.
Good evening, everyone. Just that you've heard this discussion a few times now. I think the course of action that would allow this to be dealt with properly would be for the Finance Committee to refer to the full City Council for their consideration. Thanks, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Okay, one
Eddie?
second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it too. And again, I don't want a recommendation from the Finance Committee, but go ahead, Councilor
Right.
Jordan.
I'm in favor of keeping it on the table on the premise that basically we should be getting back in executive session to discuss the problems and concerns and the feedback that we have relative to the issue and how we're moving forward. We need to have that meeting and have that discussion. This is why the Finance Committee tabled it in the first place. So I would encourage the Law Department to reconvene on this topic as a follow-up. They gave us some of the background as to why they're advocating for it, but there's a number of us that have would like to pursue a different approach. And I don't know if this is going to be necessary if we go with that other approach. We also have, it should be noted, we've got a couple other orders in there. I know myself and Counselor McGrath Smith had filed about other uses, about other approaches to using the cannabis money as opposed to giving it back to folks. I think the point was more revolving around the appropriate, making sure that the city's spending it in an appropriate manner. So in order to make the Law Department feel more comfortable, I recommended that we have it in an executive session. If that's, what they want to do. If they don't, then, we can have it out in open session, but, we want to talk about other approaches.
Just a couple of things. I spoke with Attorney Ball today, And as far as the other issues that Counselor Jordan and Counselor McGrath Smith have raised, she is going to be speaking with you about those two things, so you'll get some more information on that. But the reason I wanted to take it off the table and get it to the full city council is so we can either vote it up or down or vote to go to an executive session. And if I recall, it could be done through the president, the executive session. She could call it?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I think so,
I
yeah.
think so.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
So that's why I want to take it up, to do those things, get it out of finance, because right now it's just sitting there doing nothing. But if we refer it to the full city council without our recommendation, then we can go from there.
I'd like to have the conversation first, and then from there, we can decide if this is something we want to have move forward or not. I think it's cart in front of horse at this point, but.
Well, what if we were to refer it to the full city council to take it up in executive session?
Well, we can pull it out of committee if and when that happens. We can remove it from committee. That would be the Roberts Rules procedure to do it.
Anybody have any questions or? Well, I would entertain a motion that we refer it back to the full city council and that the president of the city council refer it to executive session.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to table it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I can take a roll call.
Sure.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Ocasio,
Yes.
Divine, no. Okay, well, that takes care of that. And I would like to also entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor, Attorney Bissonnette, you had a question or a comment? I didn't see your hand.
Maybe that was old.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
You're all set?
I just wanted to alert the council that with regard to this issue, there will be an opinion coming from the law department for your next meeting. And I know some folks have raised some concerns about the charter vis-a-vis the changes in the state law that I think you're all now aware of. In any event, that legal opinion will be forthcoming to deal, hopefully, with this issue. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you very much.
Motion to
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Holyoke Media. Thank you, Counselor Bissonnette. Okay.
All right, take care.